Welcome to the Deep Dive. So if you use LinkedIn for, well, pretty much anything professionally these days, job hunting, networking, maybe just keeping tabs on old colleagues, you've probably felt it, right? That little nudge, that subtle pressure sometimes to click something, connect with someone, or maybe even upgrade your account. Well, today, we're diving into a stack of sources that suggest that feeling. It's definitely not accidental. We're focusing specifically on dark patterns on LinkedIn. We'll be exploring how these sort of hidden design tactics are already shaping your experience and, crucially, what they signal for the future features of the platform.
Okay, yeah, let's unpack this a bit because we're not just talking about, obvious scams or annoying pop-ups here. We're moving into something more refined. These are interface elements that are, as the sources put it, deceptive by design.
Hmm.
Dark patterns basically exploit fundamental psychological triggers, things we all have: urgency, FOMO, fear of missing out, social proof. And they use these to nudge us into actions that, well, mostly benefit the platform itself, usually getting us to spend money or share more personal data than we planned. This deep dive should really help you start spotting these things, turning that like vague, uncomfortable feeling into actual recognition.
Yeah, I was struck by how much of it really boils down to applying basic human psychology, but twisting it towards sort of professional anxiety. Like the sources point out that classic FOMO, it gets hit hard when you see a notification saying, 10 people in your industry are talking about this post right now.
Mhm.
That's using social pressure, right? To make you click, even if you were trying to stay focused on something else.
Exactly. And the really sneaky part is how cleverly they're woven into the interface. They often look like helpful features. They feel personalized, like a suggested skill endorsement or a recommended connection pops up.
Right, seems useful.
But often the core function isn't really about helping you directly. It's more about driving their engagement metrics or pushing you subtly towards that premium subscription.
Okay, so before we get into the future stuff, which sounds like where it gets really sophisticated, let's maybe nail down some of the traps already out there. The things shaping how we use LinkedIn today, it's not just the standard endless scroll anymore, is it? The sources suggest the algorithm is actively pushing maybe lower value connections or kind of redundant content just to keep the feed moving, keep you on the platform.
Yeah, keep the eyeballs there. Maximize ad exposure, basically. And I bet most people listening have fallen into the who viewed your profile trap at some point.
Oh, definitely. That curiosity is powerful.
Totally weaponized. It's a notification that just teases you with who might have looked, implying it's important information locked behind premium. Creates this immediate urgency, this FOMO to upgrade, even if, all you really wanted was to check if you left a typo in your headline or something.
And another big one the sources highlighted was confusing privacy settings.
Yes.
They seem almost deliberately complex.
Oh, absolutely. Buried deep in menus, hard to understand, makes it really difficult to actually limit who sees what you're doing or what data you're sharing.
Right.
It's a classic dark pattern tactic. We sometimes call it weaponized complexity. Make it too much effort, so people just give up and accept the default. There was actually a pretty painful anecdote in the source material about this. A user spent like almost an hour, 45 minutes, I think, just trying to figure out how to stop LinkedIn from telling all their connections every time they viewed someone's profile, that notification.
Yeah, that's awkward.
Super awkward. And after all that time and frustration, they discovered the only way to turn it off properly was, guess what?
Locked behind premium.
Locked behind the premium paywall. Exactly. You invest time, effort, you get frustrated, and the only solution presented is to pay them money. That's a dark pattern in action.
It's exhausting, really, and it just makes you feel like the platform's priority isn't really your experience. It's monetizing your data and your behavior. So, okay, if that's the landscape now, what do the sources predict is coming next? How are these designs going to evolve?
Yeah, this is where it gets really interesting and maybe a little unsettling. The big shift seems to be moving away from just like simple notification barrages
Mhm.
and moving towards AI-driven manipulation.
AI-driven, okay. What does
Okay.
that look like?
Think hyper-personalized recommendations that feel almost too accurate, uncannily relevant to your current situation or anxieties, which makes saying no psychologically much, much harder.
So the AI will basically know your professional weak spots better than you do.
Pretty much. You could see predictive messaging, suggesting connections or content you absolutely must see now. Why now? Because the algorithm knows you have an interview next week, or you're feeling insecure about a certain skill.
Wow.
And those direct algorithm-driven urgency prompts, they're likely to become way more common. Things like, warning, your profile visibility score is dropping. Boost it now.
Oof.
That's FOMO plus AI-driven anxiety, designed to trigger an immediate paid action.
Exactly. Layering triggers for maximum effect, driving action out of, frankly, fear and that anxiety. It's going to be amplified by the rise of new gamification traps.
Gamification, like points and badges.
Yeah, but weaponized. Think profile completion scores that look like actual progress bars, visually triggering that compulsive need to hit 100%. And if you don't keep that score topped up, the platform subtly suggests you're somehow failing, not keeping up professionally.
Ugh. And I can imagine the competitive angle, too.
Oh, for sure. The sources mention things like internal leaderboards. Imagine seeing how your activity stacks up against specific connections in your industry.
That would fuel serious professional rivalry and anxiety.
Right. Suddenly, getting that little achievement badge might depend entirely on using premium features or just posting excessively, constantly, pointlessly. They essentially make perceived professional success hinge on continuous, almost manic, and often paid platform activity. So what here? The takeaway for you listening is really critical. The future of these dark patterns seems to lie in making manipulation feel deeply personalized, maybe even intelligent, and ultimately almost impossible to ignore. And this shift, it's going to directly impact things like job searching, the quality of your professional networking. By just cranking up the anxiety levels and driving this unnecessary, often costly reliance on the platform itself, if you're not constantly playing the game the way LinkedIn wants you to, well, the algorithm might just make sure you feel less successful.
Okay, wow. So if the manipulation is getting that sophisticated, that personalized, how do we even navigate this? How do we use LinkedIn with our eyes open? Luckily, our sources do offer some defenses, like 5 key ways to build a kind of shield against these designs. The first one sounds almost too simple. Pause before you click.
It does sound simple, but it's incredibly powerful because that rational pause, that's exactly what dark patterns are designed to short circuit. They want impulse. So when you get prompted for some immediate action, connect, upgrade, share, whatever you really need to consciously stop just for a second and ask yourself, okay, who really benefits most if I do this? If the answer isn't clearly, unequivocally you, just skip it. That moment of mental effort, totally worth it.
Right. Okay. Defense number 2 is question the recommendation. This feels like it needs active skepticism.
It does. You have to scrutinize anything labeled recommended, suggested for you, that kind of thing.
Even though they look helpful.
Especially because they look helpful. They're often designed primarily to serve the platform's goals, more engagement, more data, potential upgrades, not necessarily your immediate career needs in that moment.
Got it. Okay, third, audit your settings regularly. This sounds like admin, but important.
Crucial admin, because platforms are constantly tweaking things. They introduce new default settings all the time, maybe reset old ones during updates. And guess what? Those defaults almost always favor the platform's data collection over your privacy. Always.
So check them often.
Yeah, make it a habit, maybe quarterly. Just go in and review your privacy settings, your notification settings. Assume something has changed to benefit them since you last looked.
Okay, number 4 is practical. Limit your time intentionally.
Yes. Break the cycle. Before you even open the LinkedIn app or website, set a timer on your phone, maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes max. And when that timer goes off, close it. Just close the tab, close the app. Doesn't matter what notification just popped up, what's trending, how many unread messages you have. Done.
Reclaim your focus.
Exactly. Break that compulsive checking habit they engineer.
And the last one, number 5. Embrace healthy skepticism.
Basically, trust your gut. If a new feature or a prompt feels overly urgent, kind of exclusive, or if it just hits an emotional nerve, makes you feel anxious or pressured, step back, take a breath, evaluate it objectively. If it feels like you're being manipulated,
You probably are.
you probably are. Trust that instinct.
This all raises a bigger question, though, about user empowerment. Can we actually push back? Do users have any real power here?
That's a great question. And yes, absolutely. Users do have power, especially collectively when they push back and demand more transparency. And we're not totally alone in this fight either. The sources mention that regulatory momentum is actually building globally.
Oh, interesting. Like what?
Well, they specifically reference the EU's Digital Services Act. It's seen as a promising start because it directly aims to address and regulate dark patterns through legislation.
So governments are starting to step in.
Slowly, but yes. That kind of legislation signals that the industry is starting to recognize, or being forced to recognize, that these kinds of deceptive practices aren't sustainable in the long run.
And maybe every time we, as users, recognize and resist one of these patterns, we're sort of voting with our clicks, or lack thereof.
That's a perfect way to put it. You're voting for better, more ethical design practices globally, really.
So the call to action here seems to be,
Yeah.
be a mindful professional, be aware of these tactics, maybe share what you learned with colleagues, and just refuse to normalize designs that rely on trickery and anxiety to work.
Absolutely. And if you connect this to the really big picture, the future quality of LinkedIn, honestly, of all professional online platforms, it really depends on us, the users, demanding transparency and demanding clarity. So stay vigilant, stay informed, and just never stop questioning what you're being asked to click online.
Some powerful advice there. Thanks for diving deep with us on this one. Now, maybe go set that timer and definitely go audit those privacy settings.